All right, so video 11 now is picking up where video 10 left off, and video 10 left off with Detective Spokes' account of interviewing Russell Peterson. This is the first interview with Detective Spokes. Now, where I left off was that they released that they had secured the front doors of my home, and they had given the key, later released to Phyllis Peterson. Now, Phyllis Peterson is Russell's mother. So they secured the crime scene, but then they released the key to the suspect's mother. Is that something that would normally happen in a police situation, is what I want to know. If this is a suspected homicide at the time, would they secure the scene and then release the key to the suspect's parents, the suspect's family? Is that typical? So that's my first question. All right, so now let's carry on with the interview and the narrative. After securing the residence, I attempted to contact the neighbors for any additional information. The only neighbors home at the time were Jeff and Martha Christensen. Mr. and Mrs. Christensen advised that they did not know Mr. Peterson or Mrs. Peterson very well, but they were very good neighbors. Hold on a second. Birdlet! They did not know Mr. Peterson or Miss Wasselishin very well, but that they were good neighbors and that their daughter played with the children, which was me and Tina. I asked the Christensens if they heard anything the prior night. Both Mr. and Mrs. Christensen advised that they went to bed around 2100 hours and they did not hear anything. I asked the Christensens if they ever heard the neighbors arguing or fighting. They advised that for the most part that they were quiet neighbors, but over the last year and a half they had heard them arguing a couple of times at night. The Christensens advised that they had never personally observed any violence. I hope you can hear me, because he's going again. I then contacted Mr. Peter Korn of Sedona at his residence. Redacted, don't know. Mr. Korn is Russell Peterson's employer and friend. Mr. Korn advised that Mr. Peterson was staying with him at his residence. Mr. Korn advised that he had known Mr. Peterson and Miss Wasselishin for about 2 years. Mr. Korn advised that Mr. Peterson was employed at his restaurant Pietro's as a chef and that Miss Peterson was employed as a pastry chef. When asked to describe the relationship between Mr. Peterson and Miss Wasselishin, Mr. Korn advised that Miss Wasselishin was very straightforward and coarse. Is that a crime? I'm coarse. Does that give Dustin the right to kill me? Mr. Korn described Mr. Peterson as calm and quiet. Mr. Korn advised... See, this is why this is suspect, because now you're getting character statements from a person that clearly needs Russell because Russell runs his restaurant. So this character statement really, I don't think it means very much to me. No. Okay. Shouldn't mean very much to you either. Okay. Mr. Korn advised that Miss Wasselishin was very straightforward and coarse. Mr. Korn described Mr. Peterson as calm and quiet. Mr. Korn advised that Miss Wasselishin was always antagonizing Mr. Peterson and was jealous of Mr. Peterson's success. Mr. Korn advised that Mr. Peterson was scheduled to attend a school in Ithaca, New York, the following week, and Miss Wasselishin was upset with his leaving. A Catherine Dingler, don't know who that is, was also contacted on 7/9/93. Miss Dingler is a co-worker at the restaurant and knows both Mr. Peterson and Miss Wasselishin. Miss Dingler advised that she last saw Miss Peterson on 7/8/93 at about 1700 hours, so that's 5 p.m. That was when my mom was leaving then and she was coming to work. Miss Dingler advised that she had met Miss Wasselishin in the parking lot of Pietro's just prior to starting work. Miss Dingler advised that Miss Wasselishin was upset and not having a good day. Miss Wasselishin had asked Miss Dingler to speak to Mr. Peterson about his upcoming trip. Miss Dingler advised that Miss Wasselishin had previously confided in her that she had had a rough childhood and that her mother and stepfather were both abusive. They were physically and sexually abusive to her. Miss Dingler also advised that Miss Wasselishin had advised her that her previous relationship with Craig Daly was also abusive. Miss Dingler advised that, okay, so because the relationship with my dad was abusive, but my dad ain't never killed her. So fucking what if they like to yell at each other? He didn't actually fucking pull a gun and shoot her and then claim that she shot herself. This is all victim blaming. This is fucking ridiculous. Miss Dingler advised that Miss Wasselishin was always trying to push Mr. Peterson's buttons, but that Mr. Peterson would not respond to her threats and would ignore them. Miss Dingler, it's because he was always drunk. Miss Dingler advised that she did not witness any acts of physical violence between Mr. Peterson or Miss Wassilishin. Miss Dingler recommended that we contact a K. Grant, who is a very close friend of Miss Wassilishin. Investigator Salvaro spoke with the various members of Mr. Peterson's family at the Corn residence. Redacted. See Investigator Savaro's report. On 7/10/93 at 11:15 hours, myself and Investigator Savaro met with Susie Corbett at her residence of, redacted, Sedona, Arizona. We advised Miss Corbett that we were investigating the death of Miss Wassilishin. Miss Corbett advised that she was aware of the death and agreed to speak with us. I don't know who Miss Corbett is. Miss Corbett advised that she was a employee of Pietro's and that she worked with both Mr. Peterson and Miss Wassilishin. We asked Miss Corbett when the last time she worked with Mr. Peterson. Miss Corbett advised that on 7/8/93 she worked with Mr. Peterson and provided him with a ride home that night. That's right. She was the woman that drove him home. Okay. She provided him with a ride home that night at about 23:15 hours. So what is that? That's 11:15? Miss Corbett advised that her boyfriend drove both Mr. Peterson and herself home that night. Miss Corbett described Mr. Peterson as being in a good mood that night and excited about leaving for his trip. Miss Corbett went on to relate that on 7/9/93 she spoke to Miss Wassilishin several times. Miss Corbett advised that Miss Wassilishin was upset about something. Miss Corbett advised that she had made plans to get off work early and to go over to Miss Wassilishin's residence and visit with her. After visiting with Miss Wassilishin, Miss Corbett was going to take the two children to her house for the night. She was unable to do this because another employee went home early. As Miss Corbett stated that she had known Miss Wassilishin for about a year and has been a close friend for the last few months. Miss Corbett advised that Miss Wassilishin was upset because Mr. Peterson was working too much and not paying attention to her or the children. Miss Corbett described trying to think if I remember this woman. I don't remember this woman that knew so much about my mom. What the fuck was this? Miss Corbett described Miss Wassilishin as having a strong personality and would cut straight to the point. So, me too. Sometimes in a vulgar manner. Fuck off. So what? Yet again, a crime? Is it a crime to be vulgar? Miss Corbett advised that she had been seen Miss Wassilishin get angry with the children, but had never heard her threaten Mr. Peterson. Yeah, she was angry. My mom was a bitch. So what? Doesn't mean that she abused us. Miss Corbett advised that Miss Wassilishin was stressed over money. Yeah, because he was going on a fucking trip. And Mr. Peterson's upcoming trip. Miss Corbett advised that she never observed Mr. Peterson get upset at Miss Wassilishin nor threaten her. On 7/10/93, at about 1300 hours, I contacted Louis Covarrubias Rodriguez at Pietro's restaurant. Mr. Rodriguez is a co-worker of Mr. Peterson and Miss Wassilishin. Mr. Rodriguez described Mr. Peterson as a good person. Mr. Rodriguez advised me that Miss Wassilishin was a pastry chef who worked at the restaurant. Mr. Rodriguez advised that he had noticed that Miss Wassilishin was always putting people down and trying to dig at Mr. Peterson. Mr. Rodriguez advised that one time he asked Miss Wassilishin why she was always mean to Mr. Peterson, to which she replied that it hurt to be nice. So what? Something I would say too. Just like my mother. That's why this pisses me off. This victim blaming because of her personality, because she was abused as a child, so she's got this hard shell personality that to protect herself. So now, because when something bad has happened to her and she'd been trying so hard to protect herself from earlier in her life, it makes her a bad person. This victim blaming shit is bullshit. On 7/10/93 at about 15:20 hours, myself and Investigator Savro met with Mr. Peterson at the Poco Diablo Resort. Mr. Peterson was advised that we would like to speak with him again. Mr. Peterson agreed to speak with us. After advising Mr. Peterson that we would be recording our conversation, he was asked to relate to us the events of 7/8 and 9/93. See transcript. Oh, those are going to be fun. Reading his words. I might vomit. I almost did the first time I read the case file. After speaking to Mr. Peterson, we contacted Miss K. Ellen Grant, who was visiting Mr. Peterson at that time. Miss Grant advised that she was good friends with both Mr. Peterson and Miss Wassilishin. Miss Grant advised that she was very close with Miss Wassilishin and thought of her as a sister. Don't know who Miss Grant is. This sister, don't know. Couldn't tell you. This Miss K. Grant that told the cops that she was a sister. The daughter has no idea who this Miss K. Grant is, though. Miss Grant advised that over the last year and a half, they had become very close. Oh, a year and a half. Okay. Miss Grant advised that Miss Washington would confide in her about the problems in her life. They need to be talking to my Aunt Wendy, because that's who really my mom confided to about all the problems in her life. But you want to know what's something funny? Is during this whole case file, there's no transcripts about communications between the police department and anybody in my family besides for my Aunt Kathy. My Aunt Wendy and my mom were like twins. They were the two youngest. My Aunt Wendy would know everything. I'm going to cut this video here, actually, because I'm wound up. But there's still another page of this guy's report, too. So this is going to cut video 11. Video 12 will finally finish Spokes' first report on this. I'll probably go back inside, too, even though it's nice out here. I don't want these people listening to me reading this out loud. Yesterday was so, like, zenful and peaceful out here. And I was able to, like, read my case file and, like, be outside. And it was really nice. And today, now, I just feel like I've got neighbors on all sides, like, listening. I don't want them listening to this. Like, I'm putting this out here for you to listen to. So, I'll probably go back inside. The ambiance the background might not be so fabulous, but I do need to come up with, like a screen. You know, like the good YouTubers have, like, the green screen and, like, have graphics, like, have a picture and case files and the autopsy pictures and stuff. That would be dope. That's what I was trying to, like, share, like, with this backdrop, because I've got this in plastic, and this is, like, in plastic. Like, my idea was to, like, plastic this whole thing to make it a backdrop and be able to sit on my ottoman out here and then read the case file to you, so you still get, like, a fairly nice visual instead of, like, looking at my messy kitchen and stuff. But now he's quiet. Maybe I'll make another video really quick. Cut. We'll start the next video.